Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Feeling Seen, the podcast that talks about the movies that make us feel seen. And today is my inaugural endeavor into having a kind of co-host on the show with a different perspective on the film and entertainment industry. I want to speak to the curators, and I have gotten super lucky that I am talking to one of the curators par excellence. He has an extensive resume in entertainment media, being an executive. He's been a chairman of the board for Film Forum. You may know him best today, I would suspect, as the chairman and CEO of Kino Lorber, one of the great art house institutions in the American cinema landscape. Richard Lorber, you have such an extensive resume. I feel like checking on all the things along the way, the stones along the path that got you here would be a bit tedious for people, but what are the highlights? What do people need to know about you before we get started so we can get our feet under us today?
Okay, well, I guess the most interesting thing that I could say about myself is that I never planned to be in the film business.
Okay.
I backed my way into it as a refugee from academia, where I was teaching art history and at NYU and working as an art critic for Art Forum and other publications. This goes back to an era before you were born, way back in the early 70s. And then I suddenly became infatuated with all the new media developments that were going on in the early days of video and cable. And actually in my writings for the arts, I was focused more on video art and experimental media use and installations and performances and performance art and such, very much at the outer fringe of what we consider the art world today. But the media was transforming the art world and opening many doors to new filmmakers. That made me become more sort of infatuated with the possibilities of a career in media. And I found myself giving talks and doing guest lectures and participating in various seminars about the new world of media as it was relating to the arts, which led me to leave NYU and start in a company that was just starting in the video business for a couple of years, and then started my first company, Fox Lorber, in 1981. And that led to all kinds of, happy crimes, so to speak, in the new world of media, where there were these new technologies called cable TV and home video, brand new, shiny advances in media experience. And I, because no one else knew anything about the stuff, I became an overnight expert. And
nice timing.
And led the charge for a few years, working with some cool people like Lord Michaels and others who signed up with us to be kind of consultants and work with them and advising on what they should do with some of their assets and in the areas of physical media, particularly. All that, evolved, and I, figured out a business model eventually, and I then sold and bought back my company 5 times until I finally sold it for good in the mid-90s to a well-capitalized telecom, which promptly went bankrupt and left me outside of the bankruptcy, but allowed me to leave and take some chips off the table and then start afresh with a new company in the early 2000s, which then led me to go back to a relationship I had in college at Columbia, where I met this guy named Don Krim, who had a company that I had worked with over the years at Fox Lorber called Kino International. I bought Kino with a financial partner, and we've grown over tenfold, and we have a great team of people, about 75 folks now, brilliant, talented, hardworking, dedicated team, and a library of over 4,000 titles. Which are all, really highly curated, and we revere the process of curation. I guess my biggest frustration these days is that there's probably too much so-called content in the world. The role of the curator has become paramount in my mind in terms of identifying what's worth the time. It's not even about money, it's what's worth the time.
Yeah.
To guide people to find the best and the most engaging and most enduring experiences. And I've been able to earn a living doing it, so no complaints.
A theme it kind of seems like of your career, like that I really latched onto what you said of media transforming the art world. That media transformation process and how it was happening in the 1980s created this pathway, this door for you to walk through to start the enterprises that you got involved in. And now we're at this threshold where it kind of feels like, I don't know, it kind of feels like the sort of creation of the printing press in terms of like the seismic nature of the shift that occurs with how information and content is created and relayed. And here you find yourself again at this nexus point of media transforming the art world that feels as much, if not more, tectonic than when you were getting involved in the business in the late 70s, early 1980s.
Totally true. It's back to the future. And I've never found the business more challenging or more interesting. I'm learning new things. That's what keeps me going. I keep learning new things, getting new ideas, ways to, push and pull and reshape the enterprise that we formed. And I'm fortunate that I have the resources to do it. So, we're in the game. We have shied away from anything that smacks of production based on the very point that I said was, about importance of curation. We've been able to filter some of the best of the films and TV series that are available in the world. And most recently, we've launched our own subscription VOD service, Kino Film Collection, which I'm very proud of. It's something that I've
been enjoying it. It. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, I invite you to tell your friends more about it. But it's been a real thrill for me to be able to identify the titles that I care most about and to see them have an ongoing visibility in the media space that is so overloaded and so confusing to most people that we're become kind of a trusted name in cinema. One of the things that I remember most when I was starting to release videos back in the early 90s, that we were mainly releasing what were then called foreign films, very xenophobic concept, but international cinema was always, our specialty. And there were comments from people who were talking about, what they would find when they would go to a video store. And they said, well, I would wander in the shelves for the foreign section. And if I saw a label marked Fox Lorber, which was the company then, said, I would try it because it stood for something. It was a brand that I identified with. And that was very gratifying. That meant something to me. And building a brand has been the crucial part of my business career, along with building a great library and assembling a brilliant team of people who have been able to, pull the load with me.
Well, I'm looking forward then to talking about the titles that you presented, because you kind of picked a theme to go with and you laid it out as in your kind of your explanation, a little brief that you gave, as sort of a cinematic coming of age, like an evolutionary process of you through these movies that you have chosen, with the all anchored around either a sort of literal naming of or a within the context of a theme of the dog. And you kicked that off with, I want to go through your journey in those terms that you laid out. And you started with Rin Tin Tin. So where does our journey begin with Rin Tin Tin and you?
I can't tell you why, but I have this kind of eidetic memory of being in the third or fourth grade where I was pretty convinced that I was a dog.
All right.
And the dog that I thought I was Rin Tin Tin. I grew up in a housing project, and we didn't have a lot of money, and it was the required law of the housing rules in New York that you couldn't have major pets in a housing project. So I was denied the pleasures and the preferences of having a dog. I really wanted a dog. We had turtles, parakeets, snakes, hamsters, you name it, everything that was allowable but not a dog.
Those all seem like so much more liabilities than a dog.
I embodied the vision of the dog, and I imbued my own psyche as the mentality of the dog, to the point that I identified various dog owners among my school friends, mostly young women who were a year or two older than me, and advancing into the fourth and fifth grade. And I pursue my identity as a dog, thinking of the values of loyalty, of courage, of leadership, of obedience. This isn't really a sicky kind of S&M story.
No. Honestly, it's okay if it is, but it doesn't have to be.
It's just an emotional path for me as I was making my way in a new world of education.
You're a pretty smart dog, Rinty. At times I think you're half human. Oh, I know how you feel about Carl. I feel that way myself. But duty is duty. Now do something for me. Go and find Carl. Will you? Go on now, find Carl for me.
There were two dog brands when I was growing up. One was Lassie and one was Rin Tin Tin.
Sure, okay.
The traditional dark light analogy of the Apollonian, which is the sweetness and light, and the gods of light and sun, and the Dionysian, the gods of excess and darkness and thrills and chills and such. And I was always of the more Dionysian. And Rin Tin Tin was a wolf, basically. So clearly, I liked Lassie enough, but, nice, happy, shaggy dog and sort of a cuddly female figure in my mind. Rin Tin Tin, however, was a feral beast and had identified with his human masters and pursued, the causes that his masters directed him to, which led to all kinds of violent attacks on Indians and doing other things that his caretaker, Rusty, who was a young boy in the cavalry brigades, would charge him to. It was very politically incorrect, as you can imagine.
Of course, yes.
Looking back from Rin Tin Tin episodes. And then, of course, maybe the best of all is not the TV series Rin Tin Tin. I recently rewatched the first Rin Tin Tin movie, silent film called Clash of the Wolves, where Rin Tin Tin is really a wolf or part wolf. And I'm very proud to say that's now part of the Kino Lorber library. We have a restored public domain. I don't think I've set it up on the Kino film collection yet, but it's coming soon. But anyhow, so over the years, my association and identity with Rin Tin Tin, gave me some sense of comfort as I confronted all of the challenges of being a young boy growing up in the 1950s and early 60s. So I grew out of that eventually.
Sure.
And we finally did get a dog just about a week before we were leaving the housing project. And it was, of course, a German Shepherd. It was a beautiful puppy named Shotzi. And I unfortunately had a very short time to spend with Shotzi because then I went off to high school in Manhattan and I didn't have a chance to really grow up with a dog as I had hoped. I never had a dog again, but the theme of dogness stayed with me. And it was kind of cinematic memories of seeing dogs in movies that always kind of gave me a special thrill and gave me a sense of a super identity beyond just being a mere mortal. One of the things that fascinated me recently, coming back to my dog mind, as I like to call it, in all the 500 or 600 films that we have on our current Kino film collection site, the absolute number one most popular film is a film that I had never seen and had very little aware of, called Last of the Dogmen.
This was my first time watching it, getting ready for this conversation. I'm surprised I missed it growing up. This is a movie that is right up the street of my mom and dad, and I'm surprised we didn't have this recorded off of HBO on VHS when I was growing up.
1995. I wasn't aware of it. It's not an art house film.
No.
It's not like the kinds of things that we normally do. But we had the rights to it through, we won the rights in a card game. I don't know how we got the rights. But we have the rights and we have a beautiful restoration of it. And we put it on the site and voila, it's just zoomed to the top of the charts. Other titles have nipped at its heels since. And I keep hoping that it will slip down and have most popular titles more representative of the art house aura and halo of the Kino film collection. But that said, it's a wonderful film. And it really, in a very traditional literary narrative way, points out all the characteristics of loyalty and bravery and courage and crossing borders, and both in terms of the dog, the character of the dog in the film, Zip.
Zip, the little blue healer.
Zip! Zip! Lead the horse! Good boy! That's it, good boy! Now pull her up! Take her up!
You okay?
Yeah. It's just a little disconcerting to realize that the smartest member of our expedition's the dog.
But also the identity of the Indian, the Cheyenne Dogmen, who were a ferocious warrior class, very, very brave Indian warriors who believed that their identity inherited the traits of the dog. And that's why they were called Dogmen. They were dog warriors.
Tales of many Cheyenne killed. Of his father's flight from the white soldiers. There was a great storm. The Indians were lost and starving. A wolf appeared and led them to this valley. The wolf spoke, telling them to remain here, hidden from the white man, forever. They survived. This was during the moon when the deer shed their horns. 128 winters ago.
And so you have the actual dog Zip, and then you have the Indian heroes of the film who were the Dogmen, and then you have Tom Berenger trying to mediate between these two worlds and deal with the assaults on the primal lifestyle of this Indian tribe that's been lost in the wilderness for hundreds of years. You know, from that very wake-up call of like, well, why is the Dogmen doing so well on our side? It got me thinking about how I had my own cinematic connection to dogs, and going back to my own origins as Rin Tin Tin. I started looking back against some of my all-time favorite films, which to this day are touchstones for me in terms of what cinema means to me, which is frankly very different than what is often talked about. And I have to kind of share a pet peeve.
Please do.
Every conference and seminar and film festival panel that I go to or participate in, filmmakers are talking about themselves as storytellers.
Yeah.
I am not interested in storytelling.
Interesting. Okay.
I believe that cinema, and maybe this is betraying my visual arts orientation, cinema is a media experience that is essentially a visual expedition into new lands of vision and sound, and the narrative through line of a story is best told in a book, I think. Cinema is so much more and so different than storytelling. And I hesitate to even bring this up in polite company in the film world, just because, you know, it's definitely a minority, if not an excluded opinion. And I just seriously think that my own prejudice has always veered toward non-narrative, even experimental, if not totally abstract works of cinema as a visual art, more than just visual. It's visual, motion, sound. It's Gesamtwerk on screen. So among the films that have had most influence me, there has been a dog theme running through them. And most recently, I'm looking back, I'm starting from the present. We just reissued one of my all-time favorite films, Yorgos Lanthimos' first major film, Dogtooth.
Absolutely his own sort when it comes to language and the conveyance of emotion through language in his films. Really a one-of-one kind of guy, Yorgos Lanthimos.
He is kind of a bit of a cipher. He's very interesting and very warm and friendly guy, even though he's a bit off-putting if you don't really know him. Mm-hmm. But he is the Sphinx. He's a cinema Sphinx, mm-hmm. And it really goes back also to the origins of the founding of Kino Lorber, because I had a company before I bought Kino called Lorber Films, and we were going to festivals and trying to get started after the last company that I sold my company to, Fox Lorber, finally went bust. So I started all over again in 2000, 2001. And a few years later, I was at a festival and I saw this film called Dogtooth. I also reconnected with my friend from college, Don Krim of Kino. He and I had a kind of a flirtation about getting our companies together for about 15 years. And we did deals occasionally, but we never got to the point. And we finally did decide that maybe it made sense. At the same time, we were both seeing the same film, and he said, I really like this film, Dogtooth. And I said, I like it too. And we both, rather than deciding to bid against each other, tried to figure out a way to buy it together. Before we even had to decide that, we made a deal that allowed me to acquire his company. And so Kino International on the one hand and Lorber Films on the other became Kino Lorber. And we bought the film. It was our first film together, and went on to be nominated for an Oscar. And I went to the Academy Awards with Dogtooth and shared a car with Lanthimos. Mm-hmm. It was very significant in terms of the evolution of my company, but also the dog identity that I had grown up with. And the role of the dog in Dogtooth is very abstruse. Mm-hmm. It's almost a psychodrama turned inside out. It exteriorizes all of the nightmarish experiences people have growing up in dysfunctional families, where it's all made very quotidian on screen. And the theme of the Dogtooth is really about the canine tooth in a person's mouth, theory being that the children who are entrapped in this family household.
These very much adult children. These are not little kids. These are grown adult children.
Are prevented from leaving the compound until their dog tooth falls out, which in fact never happens. That's the canine tooth doesn't come out. So, it got me thinking about other uses of dogs, and there's a role of the dog in the film where the dog is perceived as a creature that can be molded and trained, and the presence of the dog is a constant kind of motif, even though it's not really about a dog. The film that is about a dog, though, and that is even much more essential to my own thinking about dog mind, which is the way I describe my own, creative impulses in entrepreneurial street, is Goodbye to Language, which was, I think, the most important film Godard did in the last 30 years of his life.
This seems to really get at what you were just talking about in terms of like where you see your sort of priority in terms of the cinematic experience, the language being present, but kind of being taking a back seat really to the visual communication and to what you talked about of media transforming the art world. It feels like this is a film too that encapsulates the media being the message in a way.
Well, absolutely. I mean, Godard has been a touchstone for me throughout my coming of age as both as an art historian, as an art critic, and as a cinephile, if I call myself that. Going back to the very earliest Godards that I started seeing in the 60s and 70s and such. But this particular film was really a consummation of, I think, everything that he'd been thinking about and writing about, and my own thinking about how film really can transcend its own identity as a form of entertainment, as a different kind of a media experience. And the central figure in the film is Godard's own dog, Roxy.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw the film in Cannes in 2014, I was totally ensorcelled by this film. It was just astounded by it. It's kind of a visual, cinematic, intellectual, philosophical experience, unlike anything I'd seen in a long time. And couldn't have been more pleased when Roxy was accorded the great honor of winning the prize of the Palm Dog. That was a new award that had recently been started, and Roxy is this kind of, I wouldn't call a hapless mutt, but it's a charming little, maybe it's not a mutt, but it's a very lovable dog. And Godard is really following the narrative thread of the film as though he's seeing the world through the sensibility in the eyes of his dog.
Mm-hmm.
He says at one point, the narrator says, a dog is the only creature that loves you more than itself.
There is this part where I have that quote written down, and shortly before that, their narrator imparts to the audience that sort of almost the superior quality of the dog and its perceiving powers, the power of the animal over that of the human. And the narrator says, it is not animals who are blind. Man, blinded by conscience, is incapable of seeing the world. What is outside can be known only by an animal gaze.
Exactly. It was one of the quotes that I recently noted too. The animal gaze, and the fact that dogs are and all animals are naked in the world
mm-hmm.
is an interesting way of expanding the experience you have as a fresh view of things, and being vulnerable on the one hand, and also courageous to pursue your own instincts.
Il n'y a pas de nudité dans la nature, et l'animal donc n'est pas nu parce qu'il est nu.
But in Godard's Goodbye to Language, the experience of seeing the world through Godard, G-O-D,
mm-hmm.
D-O-G, is just revelatory.
Uh-huh.
And the meaning of it to me was just a way of connecting with my own aspiration in the arts as a curator to find these rare films that transcend narrative storytelling in a way that also endures and elevates your own experience of life.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very happy to be able to acquire the film in Cannes, and now it's recently launched on the Kino Film Collection. He also shot it in 3D, I might add.
Oh, that is why it has that look to it. Just watching it on a standard screen, there's something just slightly almost hallucinatory about it.
It is definitely hallucinatory, but we released the Blu-ray of it, of course, and we do offer it with 3D glasses. It was a challenge to release the film to theaters because most art houses aren't equipped for 3D, but we did play it fairly widely in 3D. As it was shown in Cannes.
Mm-hmm.
But without it being 3D, it still has an amazing look and feel. It's different than almost anything that you can imagine. It's a visual experience that is only something you can imagine seeing as though you were seeing the world through a dog's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's the superpowers of the dog are really what compels my interest in this kind of narrative storytelling.
It's time for a break, but I will be right back with Richard Lorber. Then I will have one quick thing about decidedly not international art house cinema. We're going to talk about the sequel to the movie Greenland, starring Gerard Butler and Morena Baccarin, that's coming in 2026, so stick around for that.
Jackie Cation, hi, and welcome to the MaximumFun.org podcast, The Jackie and Laurie Show, where we talk about stand-up comedy and how much we love it and how much it enrages us.
We have a lot of experience and a lot of stories and a lot of time on our hands. So check us out. It's 1 hour a week, and we drop it every Wednesday on MaximumFun.org.
Hello, Internet. I'm your husband host, Travis McElroy.
And I'm your wife host, Teresa McElroy.
And this is a promo for Schmanners.
It's extraordinary etiquette.
For ordinary occasions. Every week, we're going to tell you about a bit of culture, a bit of history, how etiquette still applies in the modern day, all that stuff.
We also love to do biographies and histories of and, general procedurals, how to do etiquette in today's society.
So, come check it out every Friday on MaximumFun.org or wherever you find your podcasts.
Manners schmanners. Get it?
I feel like one of the things I most would most popularly associate with a dog, we have a dog, is a relentlessness. There is the turn of phrase, a dog with a bone. And when our dog wants his ball, there's absolutely nothing you can do, not even snacks or treats, that can really distract him from that ball. And I can see how, as a business person, there is a benefit to that relentlessness and that drive, a singular focus and commitment to vision. But then also in a landscape where media is being transformed constantly now, the rate of change being so fast, I wanted to know what role that kind of perhaps relentlessness plays for you, and how does that work in a landscape that does demand an ability to evolve and keep a nimble presence of mind to adapt to a landscape? Where is your balance of rigidity and sort of relentless commitment to mission, and also flexibility to have 30,000 foot view as the leader of this imprint that needs to be also have an open eye and an open mind to the mores of cinema and how you find things to fit your mission and how that mission evolves?
There's either one word or 5 paragraphs to answer that question. And I'll take the dog's answer, and okay. I'll just say scent. One of the main superpowers that the dog has is the sense of smell. Mm-hmm. And throughout my whole career, I've developed a kind of a keen sense of visuals, scent, mm-hmm. And that's put me on a path through art history and through literature and through the early years of cinema to sort of find a point of engagement with works that I think have enduring value and are meaningful personally to me. Mm-hmm. Now to go to the other paragraphs to fill out the answer, there are all kinds of constraints in running a business and being an entrepreneur, and those have to do with financial considerations, commercial considerations, too many compromises to to have to recount, and I'd be embarrassed to tell you how we all have to compromise sometimes. Yet we want to follow the scent, mm-hmm. but I've been able to kind of strike a balance between doing it my way as an entrepreneur and also working within the boundaries of a commercial. Even the art world, of course, in pure artistry is a commercial enterprise. So I'm also an artist. I paint and I've been working for about 60 years. So that kind of frees my brain to discover different nonverbal or pre-verbal ideas that I have that filter into my own tastes and judgments.
I think the aspect of Last of the Dogmen is such an interesting, I don't know, maybe a kind of a stress test where you have you've been at the helm of this enterprise for a long time now. You have developed this scent, and you have as an entrepreneur or business leader, there has to be a decisiveness. There has to stand on the courage of your convictions to be the leader at the top of an organization. What is that like to encounter the sort of surprise of Last of the Dogmen being at the top of the Kino film collection's popularity charts, when that might not be in step with the vision of the curation of the film collection? So often what we see, I feel in Hollywood, when something gets popular, is then every studio races to take second place, and so often takes the wrong lesson from the success of something to make a bunch of knockoffs of the thing that was just a hit. I wanted to hear from you about the temptation to chase a thing that emerges as popular to an audience that you serve, but that might be out of step with the audience that you thought, maybe front of mind that you were curating, and to stay on track, or perhaps to evolve your track to meet the audience where they are? Like, where is the going with the audience versus sticking with the mandate, and the temptation to perhaps change that in the face of something that is popular, aka profitable?
You're right in tune with the conundrum that we
Right.
face.
And I'm not saying there's an answer, but I would just love to hear your approach to it, because this is a question of our age, I believe.
What I can say with full sincerity is that the success on our platform of Last of the Dogmen was humbling.
Okay, it's good to be humbled. It's good to be humbled.
We've had a kind of a orientation that maybe comes from my own aesthetic ambitions or self-satisfied accomplishments in the arts or whatever, that we there was a kind of always a sort of a snob appeal with art house cinema.
Sure.
and suddenly, with the best of what is art house and classic cinema and everything from Metropolis to Dogtooth, finding its way onto our platform. This commercial film that made $6 million at the box office, which was a Hollywood flop from 1995,
But feels like the epitome of dad cinema. Like, this is a dad cinema kind of thing.
and with reputable stars, not big names, but Tom Berenger and Barbara Hershey.
Yes.
To be the leads, totally distinguished, not A+ level, but for this to be the top of the charts was a wake-up call. And it's not that we haven't had other wake-up calls, and we do open the doors to English language films, and not everything that we release is subtitled, although even English language films now have to be captioned. When I look at my friends with the Criterion Channel and other specialty boutique services, we admire them, and we sell them our titles because we have a very large library, and they buy. We just sold 20 titles to them that were, very interesting selection. But we are very conscious of trying to build a wider tent that would embrace not just the canon or the haute art house darlings, festival darlings, but that touch a nerve for an audience that is just beginning to discover the pleasures of filmmaking and cinema and such. And every film has at its core a radical idea. There's something that makes it a movie rather than just a written story. And we look for films that try to unpack the contrast between the narrative and the visual and the sonic components. So it was humbling, but it also was a pleasure to see it being so widely embraced. I think it may now have dropped down to number 2 or 3. I'm not sure. I think our documentary on Liza Minnelli has taken the front spot.
Beautiful.
But on the other hand, the other big surprise is we have this wonderful, this is not Dogmind now, but we have a wonderful documentary about hummingbirds, Every Little Thing, which has also flown to the top of our charts. It's full of surprises for me to be in the business of having my own platform now and being able to curate, in a more direct way than just releasing the films that I like in physical media or in theaters.
What is there like a curator WhatsApp? Is there a summit that you guys go? Like, is there a Stern Grove of the curators out there? Like, what is the sort of temperature of people in a seat such as yours for the role that you play now in film culture amid so much, an inundation, an ocean of content that needs to be sorted through the noise to find the signal? Like, what is sort of, I guess, like, how is your sort of peer group, your colleagues, is there a changing temperament compared to what it was even, say, 5 years ago, compared to like how you viewed your job versus how you view it now?
Well, I'd say very definitively that curation is a collaborative process. And the value for us of going to film festivals and film markets and TV markets, because we're also in the television business, is to have a kind of a communal experience of 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 the decision process, where I see a film and I have my own opinions about it, and I may like it more or less, but I'm also interested in the opinions of my colleagues, of the opinions of theater owners and exhibitors who are seeing the film, of the buzz that I hear from some of my friends who are film writers and critics, and also my competitors who are also my colleagues. Those of us in this art house cinema world have more in common than we do in opposition.
For sure.
We're all kind of fighting the same battle, and we feel a real sense of camaraderie, even if we chase sometimes the same films and step on each other's toes. But these are not mortal wounds. These are all, we're happy for each other that somebody actually got the film that we cared about. So we formulate a view of the opportunity of a film, which is still based upon that uranium core of quality and of something that makes it special and distinguished and makes it something that we can feel proud about bringing to market and bringing to other eyes. It's gotten harder and harder to do that because there's so much noise in the environment now. And there's so much hype and promotion and distortion and there's just so much being thrown at us. I mean, it's just as tough as the film business is, and as theaters they're not going out of business at the same rate they were during COVID.
Sure.
But they haven't come back to the same level, certainly in the art house world. The core audiences for us were typically the older art house audiences, the classic boomer class. During the pandemic, they learned how to use their computers more efficiently and decided that they didn't really need to go out of the house to see the films that they cared about. What we're finding is, even as the older audiences aren't going to the movies to see the new films, younger audiences are discovering the old films. And they're going to the theaters, and we're very, very encouraged by that. They're seeing films in 4K restoration, and they're having experiences, and they're learning about films. I mean, some of the biggest films that we've released theatrically in the past year have been restored master classes, like Bertolucci's The Conformist or Tarkovsky's Nostalgia.
That's amazing.
We're about to release a 1928 silent film, Queen Kelly, which will be in Venice and Toronto and Cinema Ritrovato in Bologna. I mean, these are films that are being rediscovered. The business still surprises me, and I'm still rediscovering the new through the eyes of the old.
I am around a lot of Gen Z folks, and one of our favorite things to do together is go to the movies, and I am planning to attend the Yojimbo Akira Kurosawa 4K retrospective that they're holding at the American Cinematheque in Los Angeles right now with some of those friends, so I think you are exactly on track with that, and I could feel like I could ask you 1,000 questions forever, but I've come to the end of my time with you, and I just want to thank you, Richard, for being so creative and generous with the film conversation that you have brought to us today.
Great fun talking to you, Jordan. I look forward to cringing when I hear myself on, but I'm sure you won't alienate your loyal listeners.
We will not alienate the loyal Kino audience. And listen, as somebody who's some of the best identification I have felt on screen is Doug the dog in the movie Up, I really appreciate you bringing dog representation to the program.
Okay. Well, signing off with my dog mind. So woof woof, and we'll meet again by the curb.
Thank you so much, Richard. Thank you so much to Richard Lorber. We'd love to say support independent cinema here on Feeling Seen. And if you want to walk that path, why not head over to the Kino Film Collection, really the epitome of supporting independent cinema. Go to kinofilmcollection.com and check out what they have to offer, including, obviously, Last of the Dogmen. And now, that one quick thing before I go, really a movie that has more in common with Last of the Dogmen than anything else in the Kino Film Collection. So maybe you can shoot to the top of the charts on the KFC? The KFC? But that, one quick thing before I go. If you guys missed it, a number of years ago, there is a disaster movie, a meteor strike disaster movie called Greenland, starring Gerard Butler and Morena Baccarin. This is not Geostorm disaster, Gerard Butler. This is not that. Greenland is like a prestige drama disaster movie that follows one family as they frantically try to escape to salvation with the imminent strike down of a meteor that's going to hit Earth. And we enter the story like, this is not something that we know that's coming from. It's not like, oh, the movie is like, we know it's coming for months and humanity is coming to end. What are we all going to do? Everybody finds out, like the world finds out, like, I think like 48 to 72 hours before this is going to happen. And so it's an immediate societal reaction. And it's basically, we launch right into it. And this family gets separated. It's these parents and their boy. They get separated and, of course, find their way back to each other. The kind of conventional disaster movie elements in that regard. But the way it plays out is just this unbelievably gripping, emotional, like really intimately and urgently filmed. This isn't shiny like a 2012. This is not a Roland Emmerich disaster movie. This feels like you are really in the emotional shit with it is intimate. It is intimate in its scale, even as the world is coming to an end. And guess what? It's awesome. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about it. And guess what? Part 2, there is a sequel coming. Because it's not a spoiler. The meteor hits, guys. Meteor hits, worst case scenario. It happens. But I guess the spoiler would be that if there's a sequel following the family, that means they made it. And then let me tell you, damn it, they earned this happy ending. Happy insofar as the world's been destroyed. And so Part 2, which is going to arrive apparently in 2026, follows the family as they set out across the wasteland of Europe to build a new life. And I am so excited. I hope it takes the same, like, right over your shoulder with a camera feeling that the first one does. And unless this is just going to be some weepy homesteading drama, I feel like we're going to get, like, warring factions on the landscape. We're going to get, like, struggles for food and sustenance. I don't know. I'm not speaking with any certainty or knowledge. I am just excited to see where this concept goes. So Greenland 2, start your countdown to 2026 January, because it's honestly going to be here faster than any of us want to believe, because it's already August. Surprise, summer's almost over. And that's it. That's our show. Happy note to go out on. You can keep up with us wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us. Hit the little follow button wherever you are listening now to get new episodes in your feed as they drop. You can follow us on Instagram to find out more at Feeling Seen Pod. We are also on Blue Sky. Just search Feeling Seen. If you want to follow me, I am Jor Crew on Twitter and Blue Sky. That's JORCRU. Our theme music is by Andrew Epen. This episode is produced by Marissa Flaxbart. Our senior producers are Kevin Ferguson and Laura Swisher, and this is a production of Maximum Fun.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows, supported directly by you.